Welcome to the GotStocks Podcast, powered by IBN. This original audio production delivers market and sector insights, as well as exclusive interviews with innovative executives shaping the future in fast-moving industries, and may feature a client partner of IBN or one of the 60-plus investor-focused brands within IBN's dynamic brand portfolio. As a multifaceted financial news and publishing company, IBN leverages its extensive distribution network, utilizing multiple proprietary corporate communication tools to introduce both public and private companies to a vast and diverse audience of investors, consumers, influencers, journalists, and other targeted segments of the public. IBN may have received compensation to produce this audio content. Please be sure to read IBN's entire disclaimers for full disclosures. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the next revelatory episode of IBN's GotStocks Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the GotStocks Podcast, brought to you by the Investor Brand Network. Today I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Richard Liu, who serves as the president and CEO of SolarBank. Learn more about SolarBank at their website. It's just that company name, SolarBank Corp. SolarBank is traded here in the United States on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol SUUN, in Canada on the Cboe exchange under the ticker symbol SUNN, and on the Frankfurt exchange under GY2. We're lucky enough, as I said, to be joined by Dr. Richard Liu, so let's bring him on now. Dr. Liu, thank you so much for your time here today, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's glad to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. I know we both had busy schedules getting here today, so it's going to be a wonderful interview. But for those that haven't had the time to do a deep dive on your company, which I highly recommend everybody go to the Investor Brand Network, click on the Clients tab. They're in alphabetical order. You're going to find SolarBank. But let's describe your company and its business model, and we're going to talk about it with the backdrop of all these tariffs talks that we've got ongoing with the U.S. administration, and how your company is uniquely positioned to be able to navigate these tariffs in these rough waters. Go ahead, Richard.
Wonderful. Stuart, to your audience, that SolarBank is a Canadian company listed on NASDAQ under the symbol of SUUN. SolarBank is actually a dev IPP. Means that we are a developer. We're also an independent power producer. As a developer, that we secure sites for clean and renewable energy project development. We bring the project to the attention of the utility, making sure that we have a grid interconnection, and our team of professionals work with the local authorities and the community, get it permitted. Then eventually we put the financing together. So that's a developer's job. From there, we are an engineering construction firm. So we do the engineering, we do the construction. And then when the plant is up and running, that we do the operation maintenance for our clients, such as Honeywell, such as QCell, such as True Green Capital, such as Charlie's. And so that's as a developer. We develop, build, operate, and sell. Right. In the meantime, as our investors like you guys are asking us to have recurring revenue. So since we went public 2 years ago, now we actually own about $184 million of asset, bring in recurring revenue so that we have a long-term sustainable return to our investors.
Excellent. And your company also operates as a very well-oiled, vertically integrated machine as well. Talk a little bit how you were able to achieve vertical integration, which can always lend itself to a leaner burn rate for a company.
That's actually a key competitive advantage that we have. As you know, there are many developers in the marketplace. That's why I have such a vibrant industry in North America. And most developers, they bring the project to full permitting and they sell it, and then they go back to continue to develop new sites, right? So usually that's a profit taken, and for the people to take those projects onward, they continue to bring them into EPC. That's another different company, and then operation maintenance in another company. By the time you are asset owner, and then you already had profit taking along the whole value chain of it. And so I'm with utility for many years, Enbridge and Toronto Hydro. We are always, take it from A to Z. So when I started this company more than 10 years ago, that I decided to create a true A to Z one-stop team to develop, build, and operate and owning those assets. That gave us quite a few advantages. I think, Stuart, as you know, the utility business is a price taker environment. In other words, we do not decide electricity price; they decide with regulators. So in that environment, if we want to be profitable for our investors, we can have only two things to do. One is increase the productivity, and two is reducing the cost. And this vertical integration allow us to control the focus, the speed, the simplicity in every step that we deliver value to our investors in the form of either a solar farm or either a battery storage farm.
Well, another way you can deliver that value is through management efficiency. And you have a key group of leaders, including yourself, that have been able to navigate unprecedented, tumultuous times with what's going on with these tariffs. And I've read recently, you've been able to find vendors in alternative countries such as Malaysia to offset the impact of new tariffs. Can you explain how this works for our listeners?
Yeah. So when I left my position as the Chief Conservation Officer and Vice President of Toronto Hydro, I started in the manufacturing business. I made silicon in Canada, I made solar cells in Germany, and I made panels in the Far East. So I have pretty good understanding of the industry as a crystal silicon based solar photovoltaics, right? So when I started a system company more than 12 years ago, that we always had a practice in terms of procurement, right? Because now you see, I'm no longer in the manufacturing business, right? But I am taking the product from the market. Sure, there has to be the state of the art. Sure, there has to be this and that. But fundamentally, that we have three practices. So number one is they have to be bankable, right? Because as you know, Stuart, that the infrastructure, right? Most of the money, like 80% of them, 50% of the money, are actually long-term loans from the banks. Right? So it has to be bankable. As a minimum, they need to be on the Bloomberg Tier 1 solar module list. So that's number one, right? Doesn't matter where they produce, they have to be, as a minimum, on that list, right? Number two, they have to be available and the DDP, which means duty paid, delivered to my job site. Right. So through this one, you can see we avoided a lot of areas that we're not expert from. We're not expert in managing logistics. We're not expert to fill out government forms, paying duties, and so on and so forth. Right. Our suppliers are so good. They will get the job done. They will get the truck. They will deliver the product to the job site. So my site managers can unload the truck and immediately, carry on with this construction. So that's the second practice. And the last one, obviously, the low cost. Of course, made in China is the lowest price. But however, with all the tariffs and so forth, it's not. We actually, since 2010, I started the company, we have never taken any product made on mainland China. We used to take from the 4 countries in Southeast Asia, and then over time that the tariffs get on with them. I think some of them are 3,000%, right? So obviously it's impossible. So we moved on to Indonesia, not so much Malaysia. We moved to Indonesia, and now we're actually looking at made in the US product now. So that's how we managed our supply chain to making sure that we get the best value for our investors.
Well, that's fantastic. So let's learn more about you, Dr. Liu. You're our guest today, and I know you've got a combined 100 years of experience that ensures strong operational expertise and strategic vision. I might have pulled that from the Investor Brand Network write-up on your company. But let's start with you as our guest. Tell us a little bit about your background, Dr. Liu.
Right. I am trained as an occupational physician. It's a rare specialty in the medical world. I'm not a GP and not a heart surgeon, but I'm an occupational physician. As an occupational physician, I always work with large companies. I've been working with Enbridge, I'm working with Toronto Hydro. Any of those large companies, they have a need to keep their people safe, free from environmental exposures, right? So because of this, I gradually get exposure to, what's the best environment for our people, right? So that's when lead myself from taking care of sick people to people's health to the environment. Eventually, I saw the impact of fossil-based energy making that in the atmosphere causing pulmonary illness and so forth, so that at the Toronto Hydro, when my responsibility increased beyond healthcare and I become the chief conservation officer, and hard to believe, my first solar project actually was 2003 at the Toronto Hydro.
Wow, outstanding. That is quite a long time ago. And what a neat, honestly, I don't think a lot of us think about large industry players having their own MD on staff taking care of their people.
I think, we all say that people is our best assets, right? As an asset, you got to taking care of it, right? Because people come to work not just because we pay them, they got to be productive, they got to be looking forward to it, and there's a lot to it. So that's why, for example, in SolarBank, right, every first Monday of the month is a company lunch, celebrating people's birthday, that whoever has a birthday on that month, and that's the place that we, share a day to celebrate, right? We mentioned we have more than 100 years of experience. I myself have more than 30 years. My chief operating officer, Andrew Van Dorn, he's a professional engineer mechanical. He has done 35 years. The chief commercial officer has done 15 years, and the chief financial officer have done 10 years. So just the four of us adds up to already close to 100, not to mention our senior leadership. Just the people that was with me since I started the company now, more than 12 years ago. So we have more than 100 years experience. This whole thing here, Stuart, I cannot emphasize it enough, is that you got to think about how to make profit for our investors in such an environment. Number one, control the cost. Number two, increase the production, right? So in operational wise, because this team is well focused, we make things simple and we emphasize on speed, right? So financially, each project independently reviewed so that they have to be safe, reliable, and low cost. So because of this, we were able to deliver our vision from day one, which is we deliver clean and renewable power to the people so that they can keep their lights on and they can keep themselves connected in the digital world.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you summing it up that way. That's very helpful. Once again, you can learn about that entire leadership team that was just mentioned by Dr. Liu by visiting Investor Brand Network and clicking on our profile for the company. So let's talk about achievements so far here in 2025, which has been, let's face it, another bumpy year. But what can't we handle? We've already been through global pandemics and things like that. A few tariffs can't hurt us, right? But I want to focus on the Ontario's feed-in tariff program. So you've been a participant, a significant participant in that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's a very good point to look at a company's resiliency, right? When I started the company back to 2010, it was because of the Green Energy Act in Ontario, because of the feed-in tariff program in Ontario, which means if you build small or large solar installations, that the government will give you a contract for 20 years at a fixed price, right? We were able to get half of the market in Phase 1 back to 2012. We still got half of the market by 2017. And that's the year the premier came in, mentioned that we have oversupply and we would like to sunset the Green Energy Act, right? So it's very detrimental to most of the companies. I will tell you, when I started, more than 300 companies, probably less than a handful still around, right? So, but by then we already built a huge business. And in fact, we actually acquired the fund from Solar Flow-Through Fund. That's the foundation of our renewable recurring revenue from Ontario feed-in tariff, right? So that's the first time we decided to go to the States. We went to New York. I would say now it's about about almost 7 or 8 years later, we're significant in the US in the community solar places. Even in pandemic places, everyone is slowing down, and the construction and the utility work was spared, and we continue to work through there, and we kept our people, right? Now, went to the public, and then we increased our revenue significantly. Right? If you look at the transition from Canada to the U.S. today, we have about 60% income from U.S., 40% from Canada. Really, there's quite a few achievements I will share, with our viewers here. That how do we, keep the business moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about resiliency, but it's also important to point out when a company is forward thinking, which is imperative to be able to sustain itself through these tougher times. As you just pointed out, you not only sustained yourself, you were able to excel in times of difficulty. And so speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the evolution of your company. Now, as you look towards data centers, which we all know are going to become a huge part of everyday life, well, they already are. So let's talk about how it's growing and how you're going to grow within this $395 billion market by the year 2030.
Yeah, I was looking at, what is our business? We have to be true to our origin, true to our purpose, true to our vision. Right. So when SolarBank started, we are a developer, at the call for Green Energy Act to deliver renewable energy, zero carbon, et cetera, to the grid. Right. So as the society moving forward, there's always people, always industry, always places need electricity, because that's what keeps the lights on, keeping people connected. It is the keeping people connected part that see tremendous growth. Right? You think about it, lots of people have 2 phones. Lots of people have 3 TVs. Lots of people, have their earplugs wherever they go, right? So those are the digital part of the world. We're going to have a huge demand, as you mentioned, for electricity, right? So we as a power supplier, how do we adjust our focus so that we can continue to deliver to a industry that has the greatest demand, so that's where we announced entering into the data center business 6 months ago. We have been securing sites. Recently, we retained Mr. Jonathan Martin as a veteran data center expert advising us. From our perspective, that people could say, what do you know about data center? Stuart, I use computers, I use AI, I use DeepSeek. I certainly do not know the NVIDIA chips and so on and so forth, but I do know for data center, more than 50% of the cost is energy related. That's where our business is. We can provide timely power from the grid, because nonetheless we study the grid to find places where the grid supply is available. Behind the meter, we build solar farms that can provide clean energy for the data center. We build we build battery farms that can adjust the intermittency of renewable power. We have done gas turbines before. We have done geothermal before. We also looking at some base level powers working with the nuclear industry. So at the end of the day, it's all above power supply sources that we will get into, to making sure that those digital infrastructure are fully secured and supplied with a low carbon electricity, and for the years to come.
Outstanding. Well, you bring up headlines, so let's jump into another headline that's out. It's a $100 million transformative project financing announced by SolarBank and CIM Group to fund 97 megawatt of renewable energy assets in the United States, which you pointed out, 60% of your business and your revenue right now is coming from the United States. So there's a lot of juicy tidbits in this press release. So if you don't mind, break it down for us.
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned, the company has 2 prongs to give our investors safe, reliable return, right? So one of them is our revenue growth, which is by selling project QCell to Honeywell, to Charlie's, to True Green, to a lot of people. That will give us about $60 to $100 million a year. That with a good growth margin, that will keep the burn rate, that will supply the working capital. But those are one-time income, right? Life is good. We're actually being very cash positive from day one. We still have tens of 20s millions of dollars cash in our account. So in this environment, we're safe, right? On the other hand, as a company, you got to be able to deliver long-term sustainable return to our investors. How do you do that, right? You do that by owning assets. You do that by owning contracts. You do that by supply power. So every time that the light is on, every time a device is connected, every time a AI search is going on, that they will use electricity. The electricity is from the powers that will produce. So for that one, we're always looking for creative ways to own assets. As you know, we acquired Solar Flow-Through Fund with all stock of 41 million Canadian. That gave us about the tens of millions of dollars already. We are building 3 large-scale battery storage, again, with a fixed income capacity contract with IESO for 21 years. That will give us quite a few $million. We own 2 municipal PPAs in the States. We own a community solar, but that's still not enough. Yes, I get 10 million, 20 million, so be it. But I want to get an equally amount of income from a recurring perspective as my develop, build, and sell model. And here comes the 100 million. The 100 million will cover 97 to 100 megawatts of community solar in the US, well understood, well modeled, well experienced, right? From that perspective, you look at this one just in a ballpark. That we have CIM, such a wonderful company. They have a huge environmental practice. They have a huge community practice. We work with the team in such a way, a very, very cohesive, right? So now they bring the preferred equity to the project. They bring the investment tax credit to the project. In ballpark, let's say it's going to cost $200 million. You already have $100 million there. Where's another 100 million? The 100 million is long-term debt. The borrowing rate is only less than 50%, right? It's almost guaranteed, right? So that's the beauty of this one. When you're working with visionary companies like CIM, when you have a company like SolarBank, that our job is to deliver. That I would say in the foreseeable future, you will see we'll have a quite sizable recurring revenue for, 20, 30, 35 years, right? That's the confidence we want to give to our investors. I got the stocks up and down and so on and so forth. But if you truly believe sustainable, renewable, competitive, long-term return, and SolarBank is the one here to deliver.
Well, you, sir, are a visionary yourself and a wonderful guest. This has been a tremendous interview. We are speaking once again with Dr. Richard Liu, who serves as the president and CEO of SolarBank. Again, that website, solarbankcorp.com. That ticker symbol here in the US, SUUN. In Canada, SUNN. Doctor, thank you so much for your time today, your insights, your candor about your company, its history, the team around you, and the recent news. We wish great things for you and your company here in 2025 and well beyond.
Thank you so much, Stuart. It's always a pleasure.
All right, for Dr. Richard Liu, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in.
The GotStocks Podcast is an original content production powered by IBN, a multifaceted financial news and publishing company that delivers next-generation corporate communication solutions. Utilizing proprietary corporate communication tools such as news aggregation and syndication, social communication, and brand awareness techniques, among others, IBN introduces both public and private companies to diverse audiences to enhance reach and recognition. IBN may receive compensation for services and solutions provided to its client partners. You should assume that the owners, officers, and directors of IBN or financial analysts mentioned in this production may hold a position in and may intend to trade the securities in their own accounts. This production is not an offer or recommendation to buy or sell any securities that may be mentioned in this production. The information in this broadcast is presented solely for informative purposes and is not intended to be or should it be construed as investment advice. As in all investments, investment in the featured companies carries inherent investment risk. Listeners should review the companies thoroughly with a registered investment advisor or registered stockbroker. This production by IBN is not purported to be a complete study of the featured company or other companies mentioned. Information used in statements of fact have been obtained from featured companies and other sources but not verified nor guaranteed by IBN as to completeness and accuracy. Such information is subject to change without notice. Please see IBN's full disclaimers and disclosures at www.ibn.fm/disclaimer. Music in this episode is by Infraction. For more, visit inaudio.org.